And up next, 1,000.
No, 100 years.
Oh, sorry, 100. Oops, yeah, 100 Years of Solitude.
Right. So yeah, this is a classic book, classic book
All
by
right.
Gabriel Marquez. He, I think it's what I want to say 68. Forget when this came out.
Okay, what genre does it fall under, if you don't mind me asking?
Right, so it falls into what you call magical realism.
Oh, okay, okay.
It plays with that magical realism conceit, and so if you want to know a little movie that is heavily references this book, it's Encanto. If you want to get a sense,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah. Right, right. So it's a Colombian South American. So we hyping up global South people here. Nice little story, and yeah, what it focuses on is just the Soledad, the family, right, of this house and this area, and these people living in the town. Um, and they go against, well, the first episode, it focuses on Ursula and Jose, who get married against their family's wishes, and they you know have a whole consummation of marriage, but then somebody gets murdered, and then the guy's ghost haunts them. So every time they're trying to have sex or trying to do something, this he because he killed this guy, and he effectively get off, according to the courts, because they say it was basically a blood feud fight now, what you call a standout. What is called that boy? Oh gosh, uh, what a duel, right? It was a duel fight. So by legal conceits, he had the right to kill the guy, but the guy haunts him, and that's it. It starts from there. So the guy haunts him, and then they get into gypsies who have to hold the tongue, and it's all these insane shit that has happened over the period of like, well, roughly 100 years within this town, and it's just the idea of history and memory and basically the magic of history. Like that's the magic in the term, right? The things that could haunt you. So when they say you're being haunted, you could say, well, it's ghosts, as in a literal ghost, or you could talk about the ghosts of your past, i.e., the metaphor of the ghosts of your past, i.e., some horrible thing you do in your past, or something that your family did, or when you talk about breaking the curse of your past, you're not talking about an actual curse like a spell, but you might as well. For some people, right, be in the sense of dealing with trauma or dealing with the subject of that, and the whole thing is a big metaphor for, well, South American history, right? It's not a surprise, and Kanto borrow from this, where she get magic powers because her husband get murdered by a very turbulent historical period in Colombia. It's the same thing, same idea. You pull from that, and yeah, every episode plays with this conceit about, well, following mostly Jose and the Arcadio family, and that whole conceit of these South American places, where it's just South America have such a weird history, involving just a lot of violence and political violence, but also like ideological conceits of violence. Up to this day, it haunting to this day. If you know what the disappeared are, or if you know all of these things, right? And Colombia is no different, right? And they had the histories going back. How long? And this really works as a first part. It's only 5 episodes so far. I just don't know. No, it was 8 episodes so far, and they just pulled together this thing, and it will more than likely going to make the best of the year, for me, with this. But it's just really well shot, really well put together. I can't say it's super super like loyal to the book, but like they do more extension stuff and add on a bunch of stuff just to fill out the time. I would argue, because the book is a lot shorter than I remember in that time. But they make it work for what it is, and it's kind of like what they're doing with like Dune Prophecy right now. Same thing. Like it's just they're playing with the conceits of, well, yeah, like just extend the story and add on some stuff, but tell a more interesting story and add on a little extra things, or similar to the Lord of the Rings TV show. Same thing. They just add on some things, but they do a couple things and change up things just to make it flow a little better. Yeah, that's it. And that's how this feel. So far, I liking it. I can't say I'm super loving it, but I liking it. And hopefully part one, we'll get part two later and make it work. Yeah, so I digging it so far. Right. It deserves rating. I'll get like a 9 out of 10.
All right, so as you mentioned, Encanto now, let me switch over to Disney for a little bit, as in Disney Plus.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
Ricardo, take it away. Pixar's Dream Productions. I don't know anything about the show outside the fact that
Yeah.
it's on Disney Plus, sorry, and it's a Pixar something, and it may have to do with Inside Out. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, take it away, Dream
Yeah, so
Productions.
what it is, it's an interquel, right? It's happening between the events of Inside Out 1 and Inside Out 2 is like right before Inside Out 2. And what they do is basically, well, Dream Productions, they mentioned, remember, we see a little bit of this in Inside Out 2. We get basically the focus on the, well, the homunculus creatures. So what we see with Joy and Sadness and those characters, they're in quote unquote headquarters. Dream Productions is not as important in terms of making decisions for Riley, but because Dream Productions create dreams and is create dreams in relation to Riley's anxieties, what Dream Productions do is it creates dreams that also influences Riley's decisions, and especially at crucial times of her life. And that's the whole thing. And what the story does, it centers on well, I don't know what to call these things. I forget what they call them. But they basically the homunculus of the world, of all the little workers on them. But in this one, they make like executive decisions when it comes to the dreams. Paula Persimmon, right, which is kind of funny, right? And what Paula Persimmon is that Paula Persimmon made this amazing dream back when Riley was a child, like when Riley was like 2 or 3 years old, for her to stop sucking her binkina, and that was like her big hit back in the day. And then her her like assistant was working from since then, but the assistant kind of want to break out, and then Richard Ayoade plays. I forget. I didn't look up some names there, but Richard Ayoade plays like a independent filmmaker who is like what his job is to be a daydreamer, which is funny because his stick is to create daydreams. So he's like take up the camera and do these kind of things. And yeah, it's voiced by Paula Pell. She's great in this, and it's basically just a very great meta conceit about dreams, but it's also about the studio system, and you can tell this Pixar complaint about Disney and what they want to do with that. And it's all of this great stuff, but they're related to Riley. And yeah, it does feel like kind of Inside Out 1.5, right? It's great stuff. Like it's really good, right? And in fact, in some ways, I kind of like it more than Inside Out 2. But they really make it work in terms of like, well, what Paula Pell, her central argument, and then her assistant who being the person to, because Riley's becoming a teenager, she's the young, fresh voice to adapt to Riley in terms of the meta. And it's a great metaphor about filmmaking and being under thing, and then, losing their job but getting a career, and then the different kind of style of thinkers and what to be. And they just do this really great, clever, like, conceit about it. But then, as usual, what makes the Inside Out people really clever is they do a lot of like very good allusions to actual neuroscience and actual psychology, and they fit it into the narrative very, very well and very cleverly. And yeah, it's just excellent stuff. I think Paula appears in the original Inside Out, but as a totally different looking person, and then she looks much older here because so much time passed. And then oh yeah, Richard Ayoade's character name is Zenny. That is the person. That was I sure remember. And then Paula's assistant Janelle now, she's a young fresh one who had to get a shot. So she pushed herself up, and because Paula kind of effing it up and messing up, because she kind of getting stale and outdated, because it's all about, just the same mindset. So as far as Riley's concerned, Riley's anxieties are evolving. Well, it's to do with a dance, and they what they do with that is great. And then it's just 4 episodes, and it's banger after banger. This was excellent. Like, this really works like a kind of Inside Out 1.5. It's very smart, genuinely touching. You really feel for Paula. What they do with the ending is really brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. Just, it's up there with, remember that great sequence in Inside Out, the first one, where they had the abstract art thing. They do something with the ending is great. And yeah, this was like, this could have easily been Inside Out 3, in fact. Like, it could have easily done that. Like, what they do with it in terms of like the idea of dreams, how dreams work. There's a plot device involving like how dreams work in terms from Riley's perspective. They play with a lot of like, again, why they do a good job with this is the actual disorders involving psychology, and especially the psychology of sleep. And they play with that in another episode. And it's like how they frame it from their perspective is genuinely horrifying, but they make it really work. And yeah, this was great though. Like, really funny. Richard Ayoade is great. I forget who the voice of Janelle is. But Richard Ayoade Zenny is good because they do something cleverly with involving boyfriends for Riley. Like Riley has boyfriends, but they do a really funny joke with it. All they need to do is that it have one really funny bit called Justin Bieber. That's all they need to do. That kind of hints at the joke. And yeah, this was great though. This was like really excellent, and I think it complements Inside Out 2 really well as just great sequels to the stuff. You could tell this could have easily been Inside Out 2, like in my opinion. Like it just as smart, just as clever, just as interesting. And in some ways, I actually like this more than Inside Out 2, but mostly because I was just so like shocked at how good this was. Because I really thought they would have just kind of half-ass it. No, they make just as great as our story. By the way, it also tells the perspective of the story is told like a kind of verite documentary thing, because the camera is always watching them, so they play it like kind of like The Office or something like that, or not Brooklyn Nine-Nine, what do you call it, the
No,
Talking Head, Abbott Elementary.
right. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, something like that, right? That they do it like that, so they're constantly talking to the camera and responding, but then the drama unfolding, while the camera responding, and it's unclear who is doing the watching there, like what's going on, or who's this camera filming? Like, is this a memory on it, itself? I don't know, right?
Well,
But
that's
what
a
they
good
do with
joke.
it,
That's clever. I like that.
yeah, because it's like, wait, who's the point of view exactly, right? Because but what they do with it at the end is implied somebody's the entity, and that can make sense because what they do with the ending, and the ending is that last sequence is great and really brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. All the old cast members come back, so for the emotions, right? So but how it's played is that the emotions is headquarters, so they're the bosses, and then Paula's boss, gosh, it's slipping my mind, but she's Zenny's aunt, right? Which is funny on its own, right? um, but Paula's boss is the one who directly taken orders from, uh, the heads, the higher ups, aka the emotions we know, anger and them, and it's really anger is be the one on the phone talking to them, because like something happens at the end of episode 3, and anger has to call them to sort that out. They say, look, if you fuck this up again, you're fired, kind of thing. There, and he does. It's of course it's Louis Black, great voice acting, just yelling at them over the phone, that kind of stuff. And it's like what they do at the end with that too is also pretty good. And it's like, yeah, this is like, I don't know, this is Pixar at their best. Like they just tell a great story, but also do brilliant allusions towards and a lot of meta commentary about the studio system itself, and just the actual, like, it really feels like a really grounded, realistic aspect of filmmaking. Like, you have directors and they have to operate with a script. And here's why you operate with the script. And then Paula is the old one, and she kind of don't want to let she and my assistant come out of she shadow, and the assistant kind of come out of the shadow, and she kind of feeling betrayed, and they do a lot of stuff with that. Little simple things like the name of the dog is melatonin. That's funny because like melatonin is sleep. That's great. But she's not affected by melatonin because she drink coffee all the time. But it's like it's there in you, like it's inside Riley. So like Riley don't drink coffee. So where does coffee coming from? Like what is the same drug, right? Because we take coffee to stay up, but it's only because that drug is dropped off when you become an adult. So it does this science inside the mind thing really cleverly, and they still do it really well. Like I think they square the real world science with our intuitive understandings of the mind, and our intuitive and usually wrong understandings of the mind really well. Like that's why Inside Out in particular I find was particularly brilliant, and all Inside Out 1 and 2 massively does it, but this massively does it as well. And yeah, it's kind of unfair to call it Inside Out 1.5 in a sense, because it more feels like an alternate version of 2. Like it could easily be 2, but in terms of the continuity, it's before the events of Inside Out 2 and after 1, right? It's in between. And what they do with it, I just thought this was really good. It has the grounded stakes of it is a really good plausible psychology and a plausible source of anxiety. It makes perfect sense what the whole thing is centered around and why, and they make it work. And I dare not spoil it. I dare not spoil the ending for you, because the ending is great. That ending is so good and it's catch you off guard, but it's real smart at the same time. I was like, all right, they do a good job with this. They play with it and just good voice acting and genuinely funny, mostly because of Zeddy. He's great. Like Richard Ayoade is really funny in this. I know it have a little like drama with going on with Disney, and I feel that bled into this is involving Riley, but it's a side story that I'll probably talk about later. But I get the feeling that the actual people who involved with Disney and the direction Disney might be taking now change up what they want to do with the storyline going forward. And it's just a lot of people kind of like it's almost entirely released, and you get the feeling that the creators and the execs having a battle with that with respect to that. But all of that, by the way, is in the meta commentary of the story itself, because it does great meta commentary, but also social commentary about Riley, but also about the studio system and Hollywood and whatnot. And yeah, just a really damn smart script. 4 episodes. They're short. Is in and out. In terms of the runtime, it could have been like an Inside Out 2. So the total runtime could have worked like, I think it's about 90 minutes in total runtime. And that is about it. Yeah, this was truly excellent. Really, really excellent. Strongly recommend it. It was really good.
I was gonna ask what is gonna rate it if you want to rate it.
Yeah, no, 9 out of 10. Drew. It was real high for me though. This was excellent though. Like it was like it had me like grinning though because how smart it was. Much like how Inside Out 1 was just like, wait, it's way smarter than I expected it to be. And it came out in that time when I was doing research on that kind of stuff now in terms of the psychology and neuroscience and that kind of stuff. So I was real digging it now. By the way, the thing they call them is mind workers. That is the term for them, right? These little jelly bean people.
Right.
You see them, right? It's those guys. So Paul is a mind worker effectively, but it's not like with the more fully formed like joy and the emotions. It's more, they call them mind workers. But in this, it's really like the allusion is the Hollywood studio lot, which we saw a little bit of in Inside Out 2, right?
Yeah. Well, in the second one, you're right. Yeah.
In the second one, right? We saw a little bit more, but like the actual Hollywood part of it. But they play with it more by focusing on Paula Pell. But Paula Pell is great. She nails it, right? But she plays Paula Persimmon, which again is a funny like allusion to like sleep, because if you drink persimmon, it's put you to sleep. That kind of stuff. That's funny. Like that, yeah, that kind of clever. And they make it work. But what they play with and what they do in terms of like the mechanisms of sleep and how it works and play with that in terms of the allusions and good metaphors and halfway points about if you know what the homunculus fallacies in psychology is, all of that, right? They play with that and that was always a thing in Inside Out, right? But they nail it. They absolutely nail it in this, and they just a really smart, solid script that had you actually invested in all the characters involved, and they make it really work. Rating 9 out of 10. Excellent stuff. I thought this was great.
Nice.
Yeah.